Hi friends, welcome to Mule 4 Learn from D series of videos. Today we're gonna discuss about API-led connectivity. We'll see what is API, what is actually purpose of the API, also what is application network, what is C4E. Also we will see how the API led connectivity is implemented. Also we will see experience API, process API, system API, how they are used, and we will demonstrate them using examples. So before going to the API led connectivity, we have to understand what is API. So the API is nothing but an interface which enables outsiders access to some service provided by an application. Let's take an example. Suppose this is our application, DG World Learning Institution, which is DLI application. DLI application provides multiple services, and if someone outside of this organization, if someone outside of this DG World Learning Institute organization, if they are trying to access the services provided by DLI application, then there are two ways. They can directly interact with the services, or they can interact through the interface. They can interact through the interface. This interface we can think of nothing but an API, right? Now we will see what are the information provided in the API, or why we use API, right? If you see, the API basically provides the service addresses or URLs, the methods supported by the service, request and response format, standard error handling, right? So these are the main four kind of information which are provided by our API, right? So what is service URL? The address, or suppose there is some web service you have developed using Java, and that is you have deployed in your Tomcat server which you have installed, or through Eclipse you have deployed the web service to your Tomcat server. So then the address of that service would be something like http:// localhost, then the port number and slash, then the service path, right? So that would be the service address. So what is the purpose of service address? See, web service are nothing but the services provided through internet or web, right? So whenever you expose a service through internet or over internet, then there should be some address or some kind of unique URL which is only dedicated for your service, right? So that outsiders can identify that service using that URL or the service address, right? So that is the URL. So it is like whenever, suppose there is in a classroom there are multiple students, and each of them are having their name just to identify themselves, right? So it is kind of that thing. And now the second point is methods supported by the services, right? So before telling about the methods, we need to identify what kind of service you are providing, right? So is it REST service or is it SOAP service, right? So if this is the REST service, then there would be 5 kind of HTTP methods, which are get, post, put, patch and delete, right? In case of SOAP service, it would be up to you how you have defined your web service, right? Your SOAP service, right? So in case of REST service, you may, now we are coming to point number 3, that is request and response format. That is also described by our API. Sometimes people used to call the API like service contract, right? So in API we also mention like what is the request format we are expecting, right? We are expecting from the client. or the outside application. See, here the client, here client A, client B, it may not be like the client directly accessing the service. It may be some other application is trying to access the services provided by the DLI application, right? So in that case, they need to send a request in a standard format which are described by our API, right? So in the interface section, we have seen that service address is defined in the API. Then methods supported by the service, request and response format, standard error handling. So the fourth point is standard error handling. What is this standard error handling? We will see this in the during the demonstration. So basically, whenever we receive some request from the outside application or from directly client, suppose the client has put the service URL in their browser, and they have just trying to directly access our service. So in that case, they need to provide a valid request, right? So in some cases, the request should have a standard format. Like suppose we want that, in this case, suppose the DLI application expects institution circle, right? So this is the query parameter. Suppose DLI application is expecting. So if that parameter is not provided, then it will throw some exception, right? So in case we design, or suppose we define an API, in there this kind of standard error handling would be automatically handled, right? So for that, we don't need to write any additional code to handle those kind of error. Suppose there your REST service supports only 3 methods, like the get, post and delete. You are not supporting put and patch. You are not supporting this. Only 3 methods, get, post and delete, are supported by your service. And now someone is trying to use the method put for your service. So in that case, the API will automatically generate some standard error and it will be sent as the response to the client. Okay, so this kind of standard error handling also done in the API, also done in the API definition or the interface level, right? What the API doesn't provide, now we need to think about it. See, every service has 2 parts, right? One is the interface, which enables outside access. Another is the implementation, right? So implementation is basically the steps which are followed to transform the request to the response, right? So whatever request we have received at our service, that need to be processed, and then that data should be transformed into the proper response. So this kind of like API doesn't provide any details about the actual implementation, like how the request data is being processed to generate the response, right? So that is the thing. So what we have got so far, we have got interface and the implementation, right? So implementation holds the actual logic of your service, and the interface is nothing but the service URL, method supported by your service, request and response format, also the standard error handling, right? Let's move ahead. So an interface is of no meaning without the actual service or the implementation. So as you can see, if there is no link up between the interface and the implementation, then that kind of service, I mean, that interface doesn't mean anything actually, right? So we need to think about, right, like whenever we are developing an API, that time we need to think about interface as well as the implementation. So that is the thing. Now we are coming inside, like whatever what kind of interfaces are there, we would be talking about that. So interface for REST services are RAML, which is mule scope. Like in mule 4 we would be using RAML, and YAML is also a standard. So you can say like RAML, RAML. So this one is basically subset of YAML. All right. So YAML is basically an open format, open standard, which are being followed to develop REST services, develop API for REST services, right? So as you can see, the interface, I have attached RAML. So in case of Mule 4, we would be using RAML, all right, and there would be implementation. So in this implementation also we would be developing using Anypoint Studio in Mule 4, right? So the basic purpose of this picture is like we would be developing RAML first to this is called design first approach. So you will design the interface first, and then we would be developing the implementation part, right? Let's move ahead. So this is another example, like here we are not using RAML, but we are using YAML, right? So there are products, integration tools available in the market which uses YAML for defining REST API, and also they have different languages like programming language for them to develop the implementation part, right? So it is like multiple tools are available. Some uses RAML, some uses YAML, some uses some other open standards. So it is up to you which one you are going to use. Here comes the another kind of web service, that is the SOAP service, right? So in case of SOAP service, we have WSDL, that is WSDL. So this is being used to develop interface for SOAP services, right? So this WSDL also provides same kind of information like we saw there during the API in the earlier slide, right? So in case of SOAP service, we need the interface as WSDL, and also the implementation part depends upon the programming language which your preferred programming language which you are going to use. In case of REST services, you have two options. There are multiple other options also, but the major two options are YAML and RAML. So for Mule 4, we are going to use RAML. All right. So now let's see the inner look of the implementation, right? To provide the access to the outsiders of the services provided by our internal application. So though that can be done through the interface, right? Now if we go if we have a deeper look into the implementation part, we will find that they are basically divided into three sections. So first one is the experience API, then the process API, then the system API. And what you can see is like clients or other application outside our organization, they basically interacts directly with the they can directly interact with the experience API, right? So the basic purpose of experience API is to represent the data to outside world, right? So the internal the organization internal data which are exposed through the services provided by our application. So the whatever layout are expected by the clients or any other application which are outside of our organization. So those layout or representation of that data is handled by the experience API, right? And here if you see, there is also an interface I have mentioned here. So we will look into this part later, but for now you should think about like the implementation has been divided into three sections, that is experience API, process API, and system API, right? So as you can see, system API directly interacts with the legacy systems or the underlying systems, and this basically follows the traditional model view controller MVC framework, right? So the experience API basically describes the format of the data which we are about to expose to the outside world. Process API basically controls like which are the systems need to be checked for particular data, or from where we need to gather the data. Suppose there is a requirement like we need to fetch data from multiple underlined system, right? So in that case, process API will handle those call, basically like when to call which system to get the data from that, and the actual data will be fetched from the underlying system via the system API, right? So you can think like the client actually provided access to the experience API, and the process API does not directly connects to the legacy system or the underlying systems. They connects to the underlying system through system API, right? So system API directly connects to the underlying system. So that is the basic purpose of system API. Now, as you can see, as we have mentioned, like experience API, this one is mostly responsible for representation of data to outside world. Assume that the clients directly interacts with this kind of API. Example, mobile API, web API. So what is the purpose of experience API? It basically handles the experience. Like today you have developed one web service, right? And you want to provide the access to the desktop applications, or through web. Suppose someone wants to access your web service through browser. In that case, they may use the web API. In case of, suppose later on those the same client, they want us to they want to access the same kind of services using their mobile devices, right? So in that case, there could be some requirement like the web API which is already developed, that is not being supported by the mobile devices. So in that case, you need to develop another experience API, and that will actually expose the data which is suitable for the mobile devices, right? So that is the basic purpose of experience API. Let's move ahead and we will see what is the purpose of process API. So process API is nothing but mostly responsible for transformation and routing of the data. That means the system API directly doesn't talks to the experience API. Also, experience API doesn't directly talks to the system API. They actually interacts with each other via process API. So the basic purpose of process API is the transformation and routing, right? So we will see the more details in later section. So let's say what is system API? So this one is mostly responsible for interacting with legacy systems or any other underlying systems, right? So used by the application, underlying system used by the application to provide the service, right? So see, what is the purpose of service? Purpose of service could be like providing some data, providing it is based, most of the time it is providing some kind of information to the requester, right? So in this case, you can think like the request is being received by the experience API first from the client. The experience API actually receives the request. Whatever data is received as part of request, that is being forwarded to the process API. Now process API tries to process that data, and it understands which are the systems need to be called for processing this request. So suppose there are two systems it needs to call, then those systems it will call via the system API, right? So the basic purpose of this kind of design is basically to provide loosely coupled system, right? So you might have heard like microservice framework. So this is kind of that one only, right? So they have basically splitted the actual implementation into three parts, and each one of these API is having their own interface as well as the implementation part, right? So what is the advantage of this? So suppose later on in future some legacy system is being replaced by some kind of new system. So in that case, if you follow this approach, that time only that system API need to be changed, nothing else, right? Because they are all loosely coupled. So system API is only is only section which is basically which is directly connected to the legacy system. So suppose in future, if you have any, suppose currently there is mainframe system as the legacy system, where the system API is connecting to fetch the data, and later on in future, suppose that system is actually replaced by some new system, right? So in that case, the new system, a new system API might need to be created to interact with the new system, new legacy system, and then the same data would be fetched from the new system and would be passed to the process API. So it is kind of that. All right. So this is the API led connectivity. So now we will think about this picture. We will explain the picture, like what is actually happening here. So suppose you have opened an organization, and there is only one application which provides services. Suppose that application is having two services, right? It supports two services, and you have followed the API led connectivity approach, and you have developed experience API, process API, and system API, right? So your application is currently interacting with only one legacy system, or suppose underlying system is there. Later on, you have suppose the later on you are using another system, that is legacy system 2, and you want the data from that legacy system 2 also to be exposed to the outside world, right? In that case, what you will do, so first you developed the experience API, process API, and system API, and the system API 1 was interacting with your existing legacy system 1, but later on you have added legacy system 2. In that case, what you have to do is like you have to create another system API, which is system API 2, and that system API 2 you can access from the process API 1, right? So this is the process API 1, as you can think. So it is like you don't need to change the whole implementation in case of any change in your infrastructure or in the way of implementation, right? So it is kind of that only. So as you can see, client is interacting via some interface to the experience API, and this is for client A, and client A, whatever request it receives, it passes that to the process API, and process API decides which are the systems to be called to gather the information which are asked by the client, right? So now what it will do, earlier only one legacy system was there, so it was calling the system API 1 for getting the data from legacy system 1. So later on, suppose there is your process API also wants to access the data from the legacy system 2. So for that, you need to develop the system API 2 to fetch the information from legacy system 2, right? So you can think like though you have added a legacy system in your application, but you don't need to change the process API or the experience API. You just need to add the system API for that particular legacy system, for interacting with that particular legacy system, and by doing that you would be able to get access the data from the legacy system too, right? So that is how we actually see the way of implementation of the API led connectivity. So why it is called the API led connectivity? Because the connectivity of or the passing of data or processing of data is happening through interacting with different kind of API, which is experience API, process API, and system API, right? So as we are using the API led approach to connect to the systems and also to connect with the client, so that is why it is called API led connectivity, right? So as you can think, see, like client B, for client B, they need web API as well as mobile API. That's the reason there are two two experience API for client B, and the process API is only one. And as client B wants data from legacy system 2 as well as legacy system 3, that's the reason there are two system API, which is system API 2 and system API 3 used for client B, used to process the request from client B and send the response, right? So this is how it is implemented here. The API led connectivity is nothing but like when you are interacting with the client as well as the underlying system via the API led approach, right? Now, so now we will see what is application network. So if you see the application, the interaction with the application is happening via API, right? It is like different kind of API we have developed, and suppose today there is application 1 which interacts with suppose legacy system 1, and there is another application which is interacting with legacy system 3. So in that case, there would be intercommunication between the process API. There could be intercommunication between the different process API. Also, the process API can interact with different experience API. So here you need to remember that process API can interact with any of the system API as well as experience API, right? But experience and system API, I repeat, experience API and system API, they cannot call each other directly. That means what I am trying to say is like experience API for A cannot directly call the experience web API for B. I mean, it is the standard we follow here, right? Also, purpose of system API is to interact with the underlying system or the legacy system. So it will not directly call any other system API to gather information from other system, right? So the process API is only kind of API which can interact with other experience API, process API, and system API. Experience API can directly connect with process API. All right. So any process API, it will be able to connect, right? So now we will see how the application network happens. So today, think about the situation. Today you have one application, and that is using different, suppose multiple APIs you have developed for that to expose the services provided by your application to the outside world. Now, later on in future, you have added another application, and that is also having different API, and that is also having different experience API, process API, system API. So suppose later on there is application 3 and it wants some data from application 1. So application 3 is trying to fetch some data from application 1. In that case, there would be interconnectivity between the applications. And how that will be done? That will be done via intercommunication between the process API, right? Or the between from process API of application 3, you can connect the system API of application 1. So by doing that, you can say there is some application network is happening, it is being built. right? So how this happens? See here, the API led connectivity and application network, this both actually tries to utilize the advantage of reusability, right? So if there is some communication already built with legacy system A, or suppose legacy system 1, then why to build another system, why to write another code to communicate with the same legacy system, right? So it is like rather than writing a new logic for interacting with that particular system, if we just reuse the existing system API, then the effort would be saved as well as the cost would be reduced, right? So that is what the actual purpose of this API led connectivity as well as the application network. So for doing that, what actually the API development team or the whatever the other teams who are involved in a project, what they actually build is like they used to create a C4E, so Center for Enablement, right? So this thing, this is basically a team which has the member from different other team members, different other teams. The basic purpose of C4E is to build the application network. What is the application network? Like they would be creating some kind of repository where the information would be written, like a system API 1 can interact with legacy system 1. Also, system API 2 can interact with legacy system 2. Also, system API 3 can interact with legacy system 3. So this kind of repository information would be there, and also that particular that information would be used by other teams whenever they are trying to build some new application, right? So that means if there is already an existing system API, why to create another programming, or another, why to develop another program to do the same kind of operations, right? So problem here is, if someone doesn't if someone is not aware of the fact that already there is some existing implementation, so how they can know, like, okay, there is already an existing, we don't need to rebuild the same thing in our own programming language, right? That is the whole and sole purpose of this of building this API led connectivity as well as the application network. So now if you see services provided by application 1, and there is also services provided by application 2. As you can see, the applications are interacting with each other via the API. So now you can see that the API led connectivity is happening, as well as network of application is also being created, right? So this is application network. So we will see later in the demonstration part that whenever any API is being built, that we can, in case of Mule, we can develop the, we can design the API using the RAML in the API designer, which is available there with the Anypoint platform, right? That is the cloud version. So there we can design our API through RAML, and we can actually publish that API, right? So publishing that API makes it available for others to see what that API actually does, and how the response will look like, how the request should be sent to access the services provided by that API. So let me repeat here also that we need to think like API always contains two things, that is, one is the interface as well as the implementation. So without the implementation, API doesn't mean anything. It is just kind of dummy, you can say that it is kind of dummy stub kind of service, you can say, right? So whenever you develop the implementation, that becomes the dynamic. right? So as you can see here, the application network is being built. So day by day, whenever there would be multiple application added, suppose application 3 would be added, application 4 would be added, so they will also have their own APIs. So day by day, how whatever API you will build, those will be, if you follow the API led connectivity approach, they will be reusable. Okay, so the more you reuse the existing implementation, the you will get benefited of it, right? So that is what we are trying to achieve here. So now, as you can see, as I have mentioned, experience API, process API and system API, all of them will be having their own interface as well as implementation. So as you can see, I have mentioned the interface here as well as the implementation. So this basically makes them loosely coupled. So there is no tight binding with each other. So any system API can be accessed by any process API through the interface provided by that system API, right? So the interface makes it available to other, makes that particular API available to other APIs who can which needs that API to be accessed for their requirement, right? So here let me tell you that experience API are accessed by the client, but here we will see that it is not directly accessed by the client, it is also accessed via some interface. So what is that interface? That interface is nothing but the API gateway, right? So what is the purpose of API gateway? So nowadays you might be aware that the cloud enablement is going on for each and every organization, and nowadays there is some kind of quota kind of thing is there. So if you think about Hotstar, if you think about Amazon Prime, they are basically providing quota kind of thing, right? So for 1 month they will be charge you, suppose for 1 year, if you have purchased the package for 1 year, they will charge you. And you will find that as soon as the 1 month or the 1 year, whichever package you have chosen, whenever that is exceeded, automatically your service connection would be disconnected, right? So you won't be able to access that for those services after your quota is exceeded. So that kind of the handling is done actually at API gateway level, right? So API gateway provides an extra level of security, also the SLA based controlling. SLA based is service level agreement. That means suppose there is some application, and you want that you have purchased a package which allows only five requests in a particular minute. So in that case, if that particular quota is exceeded, the no further request would be accessed, would be accepted from your side, and until that particular minute is over, right? So you would be able to access, you would be able to send a new request on only after that particular minute is over. That means the second minute again you will be accounted for only 5 requests, right? So that is kind of level of handling provided by the API gateway. So you now the practical scenario is like you don't actually expose any of the URL provided by your experience API, process API and system API, right? So those API, whatever service URLs you are having for your system API, process API and experience API, those are basically used by for internal purpose. Now the question is, what URL is actually exposed to the client? So you will see that in API gateway, which is in the Anypoint platform, we have the provision to generate the API proxy, right? So the API, it is the, in real life scenario, it will be like the proxy URL you will be providing to your clients. So the proxy URL will point to the service address or the service URL of your experience API, and then the experience API will internally call the process API, and the process API will internally call the system API, right? So this is how the actual connectivity will done, and then the system API will internally call the legacy systems whenever that is MySQL database system or the file system or any other legacy system, right? So this is how it actually happens. So your client or any outside application will have only the proxy URL. So what is the advantage of proxy URL? Through proxy URL you are actually hiding your actual service URL. So it is more secure than providing the actual URL to your client, right? And also whenever you are using proxy, you can bind your request, bind the incoming request. You can filter the incoming request via some kind of filtration, like you want suppose you want the request to be received from a particular range of IP address. So in that can be done at API gateway level. Also there is service level agreement, as I already discussed. So this is how it happens. So for our demonstration purpose, we won't be using API gateway and we won't be creating any proxy or anything. I will just only show you how the experience API is developed, then process API, and how experience API calls the process API, and then the process API how it calls the system APIs to gather the data from multiple or single legacy system. All right, so that is how those are the things we will be implementing. All right, so now as you can see, I have just mentioned some more details about the experience API. So suppose some client are expecting JSON data, some clients are expecting XML formatted data, some clients are expecting SOAP formatted data. In that case, we need to build we can create multiple experience API to provide the different representation of the same data to the outside world, so that the clients with the desired format, suppose if the client wants the JSON format, then they can access the JSON data, or we will be using the experience API for JSON to provide the data to that client. If someone is asking for XML data, then that particular experience API would be used. And in case of SOAP, some other experience API we can use, right? And also if you see the process API, it is actually calling multiple system API here. As you can see, it is calling multiple system API. So the first API first system API is accessing the data from MySQL, and the second system API is accessing the data from the legacy file system, right? So this is what we are trying to achieve, or we will demonstrate here in this video. So as I mentioned that each and every API is having their own interface. They can have their own interface as well as the implementation, right? So as you can see, this part, if you see the color code, the experience API is marked as this color. So it is also having the interface as well as the implementation. Okay, so this is the color code is being followed, and as you can see, the intercommunication between the APIs, those are basically the API implements the whole API led connectivity, as well as it creates the application network. So now we will be seeing the DLI API. So that is DG World Learning Institution API. So what we will do is, like, we will fetch data from MySQL table, as well as we will fetch some data from CSV file, and then we will combine those data So the data from the CSV as well as from MySQL database would be fetched using the system API, and those data received from the MySQL and CSV would be combined there in the process API, and then the process API will pass that canonical formatted data, that is the common format. So that data would be passed to the experience API, and the experience API will transform that data to the expected format by the client, right? So that is what we are trying to achieve. So this is some future kind of scope we have seen here. Like there is, suppose in future there is some Salesforce application is being introduced by the organization, and in that case the process API, existing process API, will fetch the information from the Salesforce using a new system API, right? So now, as you can see, the client is expecting JSON formatted data, and the CSV data is being provided by the legacy file system, and those combining of data from MySQL and the CSV file would be done at the process API. And so there will be some additional processing, there could be some additional processing. See, it completely depends upon the design approach which you are following. It depends upon you, how you are designing it, and it depends upon the requirement. All right. So now, as you can see, the experience API converts the client format, converts the data to the client format, right? So now we are about to see the major advantages of API-led connectivity, that is the reusability. So first and foremost, the reusability is the top priority thing which we will look for during the implementation of API-led connectivity. And then you can think like I think you have already understand that it is very flexible because whenever a new system is introduced to the application, in that case there is nothing, I mean there is not much change we need to do, just a new system API, and we can bind that API to the existing process API, and everything works fine, right? So hence it means that it bends but it doesn't break from the implementation perspective. Also, it reduces effort, it reduces cost, and as we have spoken about this proxy API, so the security kind of thing we have already discussed, and the accommodability. So basically there is no much change needed in case a new application is a new system is introduced, right? But in case of tradition, I mean the general way of, if you think about general way of implementation, suppose you have developed some Java application, and the legacy systems are actually tightly coupled with your Java code, and in case there is some change in the underlying system, suppose there was some MySQL database, and later on they have replaced the database with the Oracle database. So in that case there could be some changes in the way of interacting with that particular new system, right? So in that case you need to write more I mean you need to adjust your Java code, and that would be like much effort you need to do, because that is tightly coupled code, right? So that is what we actually get advantage from the API led connectivity. So here comes the demonstration part. Here, as you can see, DG World Learning Institute, that is DLI, operates over 3 circles in India. Basically, I am giving a scenario which we are going to demonstrate. So there are 3 circles, like Bangalore circle, Kolkata circle, and Mumbai circle, right? So Bangalore circle is actually referred as BCI, Kolkata circle as KCI, and Mumbai circle as MCI. So out of these 3, if you see the Mumbai circle is still not ready, and is about to be ready in near future, right? So in case of Bangalore circle, this one actually stores data in database table, and for Kolkata circle the data is actually being stored in the CSV file. All right. So by just seeing this information, we can say that as there are two kind of underlining system. I mean, two underlining systems are there. One is the database table, another is the CSV file. So we can say that we are about to create two system API, right? And there will be one process API which will combine the data from these two sources, and we will be using one experience API to provide the data to the client as a response, right? So let's move ahead. So the requirements I have listed down here, that is, customers or clients wish to go through institutions which are attached with DigiWorld Learning institution, that is DLI. They provides institute circle or institution circle as input and expects response in a specific format, right? So client is about to, or any application which is trying to access the institutions which are attached with the DigiWorld Learning Institute. So they are about to provide institution circle or institute circle as the input and expects response in a specific format. So for institute circle BCI, we should send the response with the details of BCI specific institutes. For institute circle KCI, show the KCI specific institutes. For institute circle not in BCI or KCI, show all institutes. All right, and we have to keep scope for adding MCI specific institutes in future. So that is what we are about to that is the requirement which we have to keep in mind, and we have to build the solution, right? So what is the design approach we are trying to follow? Desired response by client which is not exactly same with the response produced by process API, right? So that means process API will actually combine the data from database as well as from CSV file, and it will produce one canonical format. But as mentioned here, client is not expecting that particular canonical format as a response. So client has a specific format of response, and we need to follow that to send the response to the client. And this conversion from the canonical format is the output of process API and the input to the experience API, right? So it is like we have to fulfill this conversion using the experience API. Also, second is gather data from multiple sources using system API and convert to a canonical format, and this requirement is actually about to be fulfilled by process API. And then there is a system API which will directly interact with the underlying system, that is the database as well as the CSV file, and will fetch the data from there. So this is the pictorial representation of the solution which we are about to build. So client is about to send the request, and that is being received in our DLI experience API, and then that request data is being forwarded to the DLI process API, and from there it is the process API gets to know which system needs to be called to fetch the data, right? Whether it is database or the CSV file or both, right? So based on the institute circle present institution circle value, which is a query parameter, based on that value it will decide whether to call only the BCI system API or the KCI system API or both. All right. So in case the query parameter institution circle present in the request received from the client, if the value of that query parameter is BCI, then only the BCI system API would be called, and the data from the database table would be retrieved, would be fetched, and then returned to the DLI process API, and then that data would be sent to the DLI experience API, and then it will be sent back to the client as a response. In case the request is having the query parameter institution circle as KCI, in that case the process DLI process API will call the KCI system API, and KCI system API will fetch the data from the CSV file, and then that data would be returned to the process API, and from the process API it would be forwarded to the experience API, and the experience API will transform that data. DLI process API transforms the data retrieved from the CSV file, it transforms it into canonical format, and from that canonical format the data is transformed to the client specific format, that is done by DLI experience API, and then that transformed data, which is the expected format of the client, is sent to the client, right, as a response. Now the third scenario, that is so the third scenario is like if the what was the third scenario? So the scenario is for institute circle or the institution circle is not in BCI or KCI. So if the value is anything other than BCI or KCI, then the response will show all the institutes, right? So that is the actual scope we are trying to cover. So in case the institution circle is mentioned as, suppose, MCI, and we know that MCI is not it is not yet ready, and that circle is not yet active, right? So in that case, suppose we haven't mentioned the BCI or KCI, and we have mentioned, suppose, MCI as the institution circle value, circle query parameter in the request. In that case, the DLI process API, it will call both the BCI system API as well as KCI system API, and it will fetch data from database table as well as from CSV file, and it will combine both the data received from database and CSV. It will combine them and generate one canonical formatted data, and that data it will send back to the DLI experience API, and then that data would be sent as response to the client. So this is what we are trying to achieve, right? So we will directly go to the Anypoint Studio, and we will see how we are going to how we have developed it, and then how the actual interactions between the APIs are happening. All right, and we need to remember that each and every API may contain their own interface as well as their implementation, right? So let's move ahead and go to directly to the Anypoint Studio. All right, so we are in Anypoint Studio. So as we discussed that we are about to use two system APIs, one process API and one experience API, right? And I have developed this for demonstration purpose, and as we discussed that before developing the API, we need to first design the RAML file, and then using that RAML file we are about to we are going to generate the interface flows, I mean the interface mule configuration files. So without any delay, let's directly go to the each and every details of the APIs which I have just built for this demonstration purpose. So for BCI system API, as we discussed, like each and every API will have their own interface and implementation. So BCI system API is having its own interface and implementation. Similarly, KCI, let's have a look into the KCI part. So KCI is also having its own interface and implementation, and then the same thing applies for the process API, interface and implementation, and for experience API also, right? Interface and implementation. So now what we will do is like we will have a look into the BCI API RAML. That is the first thing we are going to have a look. So this is the service path we are about to we have defined in the RAML file, and it is having only one method supported, and this is the example which is being used as a dummy data. right? And using this raml file, we have basically generated this interface mule configuration file, and automatically this has generated these scaffolding flows. That is the BCI dash API dash main flow. Also the error handlers, it has automatically generated, as we spoke about the standard error handling. So also it has generated the BCI dash API console, and then the whatever service path we have mentioned in the raml file, those similar those flows has been private flows has been created, right? So this is the private flow. It is not having any source. So let's have a look into the configuration. So this is the HTTP listener configuration for BCI system API. So if we have a look into the port number, that is running at port number, about to run at port number 8081, and the host name is the local host. And also if we go to the property of the listener, and we will find that it is basically pointing to /API/, right? So the whole API of that particular service goes like this, right? So HTTP : localhost and 8081, then API, then BCI institutions, right? So this is the URL of the service which we are about to use for this demonstration purpose, right? As I mentioned that the interface is nothing without the implementation. So as you can see here, we have used flow reference to call the actual implementation flow, right? This is get BCI institution, this is calling, and which is present in the implementation configuration file. This is get BCI institutions, right? What it is doing, as we saw in the slides, it is the purpose of BCI system API is to fetch the data from the database table and transform it into a JSON format, right? So what we will do, we are using the local MySQL database I have used here, and the database name is db_integration, and the table name is tb_dli_institution, right? And this is the data which is present inside this table, and we are about to fetch this data. This, as you can see, this is the institution circle is mentioned as BCI. So this is the BCI specific data which we are about to fetch using this system API, right? So for our demonstration purpose, I have already deployed the flows. So as you can see, BCI system API is already deployed, right? And this is the service URL. So let us check whether the service URL is working or not. So we will just have a look. Okay, so as you can see, this is the data is being returned by the system API, and it is fetching the data from the database table, that is the MySQL table, right? Similar thing we have developed for the KCI system API also, and let us first have a look into the KCI raml file, and it is having the service path as /KCI_institutions, and it is also having the same the only one only one method, and it is having the example like this. And as you can see, though this example is looking like similar to the BCI one, but if you compare, here it is institution circle and here it is only circle. Similarly, this is the institution ID and this is the only ID, and if you see, here it is name and here it is institution name, right? So ideally it is like I have deliberately done this to show you that both the systems actually they are actually following different data for data structure for fetching for providing the data to the process API, right? So we will quickly go to the interface part of these of the KCI system API, right? So this is what has been generated using this KCI API raml file, and if we go to the listener configuration, there it is the similarly like BCI, it is also having /API/*, and if we go to the global elements and if we see the property here, as you can see, it is running at port number 8082 and the host name is localhost, right? So now, what is the service URL path for the KCI system API? This is the service URL. So we will quickly have a look, and we will see that before executing the URL, before fetching the URL, or before checking that, we will go to the implementation. And if you see, this is the flow. The private flow name is get KCI institutions, and which has been referred to from these from this private flow, that is get and KCI institutions, right? So from here, using flow reference, we are trying to refer to the private flow which is present in the implementation file of the KCI system API. So get in KCI institution, this flow will be called from the interface mule configuration file whenever we are trying to fetch this URL. So as you can see, okay, so what we will do is, like, we will see what exactly happens when we try to access this URL, right? So let us just split this part, and we have seen that in the listener configuration of the KCI system API, we have mentioned localhost as the host part, and the port number is 8082, and the path was mentioned as API. Now here comes the actual service path, right? So how it is identifying that which flow to be called, right? So as you can see, whenever we provide this URL in the browser, and we just try to access this service, and then this part identifies that it is KCI system API, right? Because it is being received by this listener. And here, as you can see, it is the API kit router which is referring to our RAML file, right? Which is referring to our RAML file. And in the RAML file, what we have defined? In the RAML file, we have defined this. So in our URL also, we have this part. So automatically that request would be routed to the respective flow, which is this one, right? So as you can see, this one is having this part, right? Slash KCI institutions, right? So this is how the request is being routed using the API kit router to the particular flow. And once the request is received in this flow, through this flow reference, it actually calls the implementation flow, right? So and in the implementation, if you see, we have used a read component which is reading this file, right? This is a CSV file, and later on we are converting that to a JSON, right? So we will quickly have a look how the JSON is the CSV data is being fetched using the KCI system API, and then how the data looks like, right? So as you can see, the KCI specific data is being fetched from the CSV file, and then that data would be sent back to the caller, right? See, we have to remember that though we are individually trying to access the system API process, we will also access individually the process API as well as the experience API. We need to remember that any of these service URL we are not going to expose to the outsiders, right? So as we discussed that the actual in the real life scenario, we used to provide the proxy URL of the experience API to the outside world or the client, right? So we need to remember that thing. So as we have seen that the KCI system API is working fine, as well as the BCI system API is working fine, as well as the KCI system API is working fine. Now we will have a look into the DLI process API, right? So if we go to the DLI process API, let us just have a look, and we will see that it is also having a RAML file. So this is the RAML file it is having, and what is the service path is being used here? So this is the URI. So this is the URI used here is the slash institutions, right? And it is also saying that it is expecting a query parameter that is institution circle. And what should be the value of them? It should be either BCI or KCI or MCI. So that is how we have designed this RAML. If you like to if you wish to design this in a different manner, you are free to do that, right? So we have to keep the requirements in mind, and then we have to design this. All right, so using this RAML file, if we just right click on this and if we just click on this generate flows from local REST API, then this kind of file would be created. See, the interface.xml, the file name can be different, but that we can rename it using right click on the file and then just click on refactor and then rename. All right, so using that we can rename the file. For the demonstration purpose, I have renamed the file to interface.xml and also the implementation file as the implementation.xml, right? So similarly, we will quickly have a look into the path, that is the API star, and then in the HTTP listener configuration, the port number is 8083. So the DLI process API is running on port number 8083, right? So with this we can see that the DLI process API is having this path, right? So the process API is having this path, and now it depends upon the when this one is fetched, it will basically forward the request to the through this API router, API kit router. It will be forwarded to this section, and from here it is going to use this flow reference to send the request to the request data to the implementation. So in the implementation, if we see, this is the get in the DLI institutes. This is the flow is being called using flow reference, right? And now we will have a look that in case the set variable, we have used a set variable component which is basically accessing the query parameter, that is the institution circle. So whatever institution circle data, this query parameter, whatever value we will pass here, that would be fetched using this set variable component, and it would be stored in the where circle. That is the flow, that is the variable name, and there we are storing this value. So that means if we pass this URL in the browser and if we hit enter, then this BCI would be stored in the where circle, right? So after that we have used a choice router, and in the choice router we are checking that particular variable value is BCI or it is KCI. Based on that we are calling that particular service, that is the system API. See, here we are calling the system API using HTTP request. If you think, you can also use flow reference to call the system API. All right, so it is up to you how you want to achieve this, right? So here also for KCI, I am calling from the implementation of the process API, we are calling the system API using HTTP request, right? And as we the response from the BCI system API is not in the canonical format, so we are transforming that using this transform message component. Using this transform message component, we are converting that to a canonical format, and as the KCI system API is returning the data in the same canonical format, so we don't need to convert anything. So this is how we are calling the system API from the implementation part of the process API, that is the DLI process API, right? And if you remember, we mentioned in the requirement that if the URL is not having any data that is either of BCI or KCI, either other than BCI and KCI, if it is having any other value, that time we need to call both the flows to get all the data, right? So we have used See, for in case it is not BCI or KCI, it will go to the default section of the choice router flow, right? I have already created another video for this routing section, so if you need more details about that, I would request you to go to that flow, that video, and please have a look. So here in the we have used scatter gather to call the KCI system API as well as the BCI system API parallelly, and then whatever response is returned from there, we are actually combining them to the canonical format, right? So from KCI we'd be having KCI specific data, and from BCI we'd be having BCI specific data, and now we have transformed this canonical format, right? So if we just have a look into the scatter gather part, let us have it have a look here. So if you see the scatter gather part output section is returning an object. So this 0, as you can see, in object inside object, so this object at index 0, it is actually referring to the data which is returned from the KCI system API. Also the object in at the index 1, that is referring to the data which is returned from the BCI system API, right? So if you split that, you will find that it is having payload as well as attributes. So here in this transformation section, we are basically combining them so that we can get both the data and we can return to the client, right? So this is how we are calling the system APIs from the process API, right? And now we will quickly check how the URLs are working. So let me repeat here that we are not going to provide any of these URL to the client so that outsiders cannot access them. We will provide in the real life scenario, we will only share the URL of Experience API, and in case there is proxy API, we will obviously share the URL of proxy API. Okay, and that proxy API will internally refer to the Experience API, and Experience API will internally call the process API, and the process API will internally call the system APIs to fetch the data from the underlying systems, right? So now let's have a look into the this is the process API URL, and as you can see, it is working as expected, and it is successfully retrieving the data from the BCI, as we have mentioned here BCI. Now we will mention here the KCI. So now as you can see, it is actually fetching the KCI specific data. And now if we just mention it here MCI, right? So if we mention it MCI, now as you can see, KCI specific data as well as BCI specific data, right? So both the data it has fetched, right? Now let's see, we have mentioned it here XCI. What happens? As you can see, automatically the error has been handled, as we mentioned here that in the DLI process API section we mentioned only these 3 values. So this process API will accept only the institution circle query parameter having only any of values out of these 3. If you provide any other value, that time it will give you error. Okay, so this is the error message. See, this is automatically handled, and we haven't written any additional code for this. Whenever we were generating the flow using this RAML in the process API section, so that time it has already generated this thing. And as you can see, the bad request is already there. Where is that? This one. Okay, so this one is actually handling this. See, this has been written to this request. All right. Now I am just making it MCI. So we have covered so far the system API as well as the process API. Two system APIs we have covered, process API we have covered. Now we are about to have a look into the DLI Experience API, right? So similarly, it is also having the RAML. So first we will have a look into the RAML. It is having the URI or service path as the DLI underscore institutions. and using this we have created this interface, a mule configuration file, and it is internally referring to these DLI institutions, which is using flow reference to call the implementation flow, that is this one. And here, as you can see, we are internally calling the process API. So we are internally calling the process API. If you follow this, we are internally calling the process API from this experience API, right? So as you can see, it is HTTP localhost 8083, then API, then institutions. And so let us just quickly verify the process API path. So this is the process API path, right? But what about the query parameter where we have mentioned? See, we need to check it carefully. So let me show you where I have mentioned that. So this is the HTTP request where from we are trying to call the process API, and if we go to the query parameter, I have mentioned institution circle, and it is fetching the value from the message attributes and query parameters, then institution circle. So that means whatever parameter we will provide in the query, whatever query parameter we will provide in the DLI experience API URL, that will be forwarded to the process API during from the implementation flow, right? So this is how it is going to call. So now we can see that this is the experience API URL, this is the process API URL, then this is the system API URL, and this is also another system API URL, right? So the client will be having the access to the experience API, right? And in case they have the we have the proxy API, then the proxy API will be API URL will be provided to the client or the outside application teams, and then they will use that URL from their application to access our experience API. And then the experience API will internally call the process API, as we have mentioned. See here, it is calling the process API, and then the process API will internally call the system APIs, as we have seen, right? And now the thing is that we have also mentioned that process API is generating the canonical format. This format we have already seen, right? But what is the format expected by the client? See, this is the format expected by the client. So if you see, this is something different, right? So if you follow the canonical format, this is having a different layout, and the client is expecting some different layout, though both the data are in JSON format, but the layout is different, right? So that is the reason, whatever after calling the process API using this HTTP request component, whatever response will be returned, that is being again transformed using this transform message, right? So as you can see, using this part, I am transforming that to the expected format, to the format expected by the client, right? So as you can see, all these things I have mentioned, right? So our flow is already deployed. Now quickly I will try to access the URL. All right, so this is now the process, the experience URL, experience API URL I am trying to access, right? So if you see the port number, it is 8084, and as you can see, this is the format expected by the client, right? So this is how it is looking. If I mention here the KCI, then it will provide the KCI specific data, and as you can see, it is grouping the institutes which are present, which are attached to a particular circle. It is grouping them with the circle specific data, right? And let's see, if I mention here MCI, then it is giving us KCI. First it is grouping the KCI specific data, and then again it is giving us the BCI specific data, right? So like this it is grouping, All right, so this is how we can implement the experience API, system API, as well as the system APIs. So now in future, if there in future some other system API, some other system is introduced into our application in our organization, in that case similarly a system API would be created. Suppose, let me give you an example here. So suppose that is about to run on 8085, and then that is suppose ZCI, that is the URL of that particular um, system API. And similarly we have to provide here again another URL will come. So only the system API need to be added, and some adjustment need to be made here so that you can call the that particular new system, right? So again similarly here also, if you just from the experience API, you need to add this URL, right? So this URL, using this URL you would be able to achieve this, right? So this was a simple demonstration of the kind of API led connectivity which we have prepared here, and I have demonstrated. And see, the concept is like you have to think what is the requirement, and based on that you have to design it. So keeping in mind that the reusability, and then the requirement, so that is the thing. It is up to you how you can achieve this. All right, so that is what. And in case if you find any question or any kind of other information you need related to this, I would request you to please comment. And also if you have any suggestion, like you need this kind of information or any other videos you want me to do, then please write it down in the comment. So API led connectivity is nothing but a design concept or approach which enables development of reusable application network through the C4E enablement in an organization, right? C4E is nothing but a group of members who belongs to different teams, who actually prepares or develops APIs, so that they can keep a track of they can prepare a centralized repository so that others can view that, and then they can refer to that repository before preparing any new system API or process API or the experience API. The concept behind this is like if already there is an implementation, why to develop it for again, right? Just to reuse would be if you reuse that, then the cost as well as the effort would be saved, right? So thank you so much, and see you later with a new video. Thank you.